right back here with Skylar Reidel. We're talking about what we'll say some of the lesser reviewed items on a YouTube channel. So we're going to talk about item 20 and 21. So 20 is going to talk about everybody like transfers, closures, and then 21 is more financial audits, solvency. So Skylar, when you're reading the FDD, how you're coaching people when they're seeing things in 20 and 21 that maybe they don't understand. Let's go 20 first.
Starting in item 20, the first thing I flip to is going to be I think it's table 3 if I recall right. And that's your chart that shows all of the franchisees existing who are coming on board and who are leaving the system in the last 3 years. My initial thoughts are, is there turnover? Is it an unusual amount of turnover? Is there a change in the system that would account for that turnover? If not, we need to find out why. So that's definitely a cheat sheet that like an immediate item that I look at is turnover, because that can give you some indication of maybe some issues behind the scenes that are not in the FDD. If you look at item 3, litigation, and you see some of those suits based on some terminations, then you really know there's something there. But sometimes they settle things quietly, and high turnover rates can indicate some issues. And turnover, let me just clarify that too, is the way I count turnover is there are a high percentage of franchisees that are either being terminated, who are ceasing operations, or being transferred, or being reacquired by the franchisor, compared to the number of franchisees in the system actively or who are being added. And anything I would see, it kind of depends system to system in regards to how big they are. But
how big they are and how old they are, right?
Exactly,
So
exactly.
20 years old, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You're seeing owners retiring,
Sure.
successfully. When it's 3 years old,
yes, exactly. Yeah,
and then all over, right?
And I will say just raw numbers is probably not the best gauge either. It's percentage, right? It's a ratio. If you have 200 or 300 franchisees in a system and you see 20 that are turning over year to year after 10 years or something, that's probably normal, right? That's a fairly typical amount of turnover. That would be 10% or less, right? In a mature system, that's usually okay. More than 15%, there's some questions. More than 20%, definitely some hard questions to ask. So I definitely start there in item 20. And then another point that we discuss with clients and show them or demonstrate for them is the exhibit or the attachment with the contact information for existing and former franchisees. Now, in their sales process, they almost always will have calls with them already facilitated by the franchisor, which is great. That's fine. Okay. I encourage my clients to call a few more. Just get a little closer to maybe your territory or just randomly sample and see who's willing to chat with you. And those calls, I tell them, look, they're probably not going to tell you about their financials very deeply. Don't ask them what their general revenue is versus their operating expense, because that's kind of private, right? I mean, in a sense, I wouldn't want to share that with random people calling me, right? But ask them just, how do you like the system? How do they treat you? Well, do you feel like you're growing? Are you happy? Maybe that's a question. What's your lifestyle like? All of those can be very significant questions that can give you deep insights, even without numbers. So I tell clients, ask those types of questions and just do a random sample. Try some close to you, some in the same state or neighboring states, some that may have similar characteristics as your metro area maybe or your territory, and see what you can find. It's always very helpful. So those are the two really big items or topics in item 20.
So the other thing then on item 20, I think is what we're starting to talk to is validation. And so you said something really important that when you're at that point of validation and you can call anyone in the FDD, right? So they're going to set up calls. Technically, they're not supposed to cherry pick. They're not just supposed to say, hey, here's our time. Don't pay any attention, right? But you want to talk to, one thing you said was to talk to maybe some franchisees that are close to you. I will say one of the things I will coach people on in that context is, remember when you're talking to those close to you, unless your territory sizes are decent,
they might scoop you.
You might find someone who's working your territory and they might give you a bad validation. They don't necessarily want you there. And so just kind of keep that in mind. But also what you're listening for is that person is going to be your potential partner in that business. And so it's even a matter of, do you get along? Do you like them? So I'm not saying don't talk to them, but you're actually looking even deeper under the hood, because isn't it the unwritten kind of thing in franchising that they don't put in the brochure, which I think should be truly, if we could get it through to people, would be fabulous. That hive mind of the other franchisees is generally the secret sauce and the secret weapon to success.
Definitely. Oh yeah, absolutely. The collaboration, right, across different levels of that franchising. There's vertical and horizontal collaboration, which is powerful. To your point about, when I say close, I don't necessarily mean the people right next door to you in a territory. And again, it depends on the system. I've had clients, and I think these are clients who came to me after they've had issues But I've heard stories where they've called their neighboring franchisees, and one of those neighboring franchisees either jumped in and bought the territory because they saw an interest in it, or they had a 7 or 8 year old right of first refusal and activated that to scoop our clients. So not necessarily need to talk to them that are adjacent to you, but nearby, close, right? Whatever that means to you. And really the key I think there is matching characteristics. Because if you're in downtown Miami, for example, totally different than if you're calling someone in Atlanta or New York or whatever. You're going to want to talk to maybe Tampa, right? Or potentially even Houston or something, things like that. So you just got to take it into context of what type of details you want. But yeah, great point. That's true.
Yeah. And that's why we do these videos, right? So we can kind of go a little bit deeper than what's under,
Exactly.
Thank you for watching. If you're ready to take the next step, Integrity Franchise Group is here to help. Click the link below or reach out to us today to schedule an appointment. Let's work together to solve that franchise puzzle and turn your business dreams into reality. We cannot wait to connect with you.